This story is titled, My Sister-in-Law Framed Me for Stealing Family Biz Money. So I exposed her, and now she is begging. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. What's up, Reddit? I'm finally posting because I need to get this off my chest. My life has been a complete whirlwind lately, and honestly, I feel like I'm living in some kind of family drama I never signed up for. Let me lay some background. I'm 28 male, married to Ashley, 27 female, and we've been trying to keep her family bakery running after her dad passed away last year. It hasn't been easy, but we've worked hard to turn things around. The thing is, her older sister Lauren, 32 female, has decided that I'm the villain in this story, and she's done everything in her power to make our lives miserable. Bring your cup of tea because this story is a lot, and I need to know if I handled it right, or if I've completely lost my mind. So, this whole thing began last year when my father-in-law passed away. He wasn't just any guy. He was one of those hard-working, salt-of-the-earth types who built something from nothing. That something was the bakery, a small, cozy spot in our town that everyone loved. If you grew up here, you probably had one of his cinnamon rolls at least once. It wasn't a big operation, but it was his life's work. My wife, Ashley, and her older sister, Lauren, basically grew up in that bakery. They knew every recipe by heart and could probably bake blindfolded. I wasn't part of the family back then, but it was clear that the place was more than just a business. It was their dad's legacy. Fast forward a bit, and I come into the picture. Ashley and I got married a couple of years ago, and around the same time, her dad started having some health issues. The bakery was struggling, and Ashley asked if I could help out. Now, I'm not a baker. I can barely cook pasta without setting off the smoke alarm. But I do have a background in business, and I figured I could help with the stuff behind the scenes. Managing finances, organizing inventory, streamlining operations. Basically, the boring stuff that no one really wants to deal with. It wasn't easy. The books were a mess. The equipment was outdated. And honestly, the bakery's reputation had taken a hit because her dad just couldn't keep up. I spent countless evenings and weekends there, crunching numbers, fixing systems, and figuring out how to get things back on track. And slowly but surely, it started to work. We upgraded the equipment, ran some local promotions, and even revamped the menu a bit to include gluten-free options. Sales started to pick up. People were coming back. I didn't do it alone. Ashley and her dad were still the heart and soul of the place. But I was proud of the part I played. When her dad passed, it hit us all hard. He was a good man, and he genuinely cared about the people around him. After the funeral, the family met with his lawyer to go over the will. I wasn't expecting much from it. Maybe a mention of gratitude for helping out. But that's about it. Instead, I got blindsided. The lawyer started by explaining how the bakery would be split. Ashley and Lauren would each get 40% of the business, which made sense. Then he announced that the remaining 30% was being left to me. I was floored. I didn't even know what to say. Ashley squeezed my hand, and her mom nodded at me like it was no big deal. But Lauren? She lost it. The second the words were out of the lawyer's mouth, she was glaring at me like I'd just stolen her car. When the meeting ended, she didn't even wait for the pleasantries. She stood up, pointed at me, and said, "This is a joke, right? He's not family. Why would Dad give him anything?" Ashley tried to calm her down, saying it was probably their dad's way of thanking me for stepping up when he was sick. But Lauren wasn't having it. She accused me of manipulating him, said I must have convinced him to write me into the will. I didn't even know what to say. I mean, what do you say to that? It wasn't like I'd asked for this. Hell, I didn't even know it was happening. Lauren stormed out before anyone could respond, leaving the rest of us sitting there in awkward silence. I figured she was just upset and needed time to process everything. Losing her dad was hard enough, and now she was dealing with the stress of dividing up his estate. I told Ashley not to worry about it, and that we'd give Lauren space to cool off. But looking back, I should have seen it coming. This wasn't something Lauren was going to let go of. The next couple of weeks were tense. Lauren barely spoke to me or Ashley. When we'd see her at family gatherings, she'd act polite but cold, like we were strangers. I caught her giving me dirty looks more than once, but I decided to let it slide. I figured the best way to handle it was to stay calm and not escalate things. I was wrong. Lauren's attitude didn't just stay in the family. It started spilling over into the bakery. She'd come in during the busiest hours, stomping around like she owned the place, which, to be fair, she partly did. She'd criticize everything, from the displays to the recipes, even though she hadn't been involved in the day-to-day operations for years. It was frustrating, but I bit my tongue because I didn't want to create more drama. One day, she pulled me aside and said, "You're lucky Dad was too soft. If I had my way, you wouldn't have a single piece of this bakery." That's when I realized this wasn't just about grief or stress. Lauren genuinely believed I didn't belong. To her, I was an outsider, someone who had no right to be part of her family's legacy. It didn't matter how much work I'd put in or how much her dad had appreciated my help. In her eyes, I was the enemy. Ashley was stuck in the middle, trying to keep the peace. She'd talked to Lauren, trying to explain that her dad's decision was his way of ensuring the bakery would survive. But Lauren wasn't listening. She'd say stuff like, "Of course you're defending him. He's your husband. But don't forget where your loyalty should lie." It was exhausting. I started to dread going to the bakery, even though it was thriving. The customers loved the changes we'd made, and for the first time in years, the business was actually making a solid profit. But every time Lauren walked in, it felt like all the progress we'd made didn't matter. She'd find something to complain about, or accuse me of trying to take over. It was like she couldn't stand the idea of me being part of something she saw as hers. I kept telling myself it would blow over, that Lauren would eventually see reason. But deep down, I had a sinking feeling this was just the beginning. And, unfortunately, I was right. The silent treatment and dirty looks were one thing, but pretty soon, she cranked things up to a whole new level. It started small, almost subtle. She'd make snide comments whenever we were at the bakery together. Stuff like, "Oh, guess you're the boss now, huh?" Or, "You're lucky Dad wasn't here to see the real you." I tried to keep it low, telling myself she was still grieving, but it got harder and harder to ignore. Then she moved on to outright accusations. At first, it was just muttering under her breath about how I was changing too much or ruining the bakery's traditions. But one day, she came in during a busy Saturday morning rush and announced, loud enough for the customers to hear, "I don't trust the books anymore. Something's not adding up here." I was stunned. The bakery was packed, and she was accusing me of cooking the books in front of half the town. I tried to stay calm. I told her, "Lauren, everything is accounted for. If you have questions, we can sit down later and go over the numbers together. Stop making fuzz like kids." She just smirked and said, "Oh, I bet you'd love that. Sit down with you so you can spin the story your way." No thanks. I wanted to yell, but I kept it together. Ashley pulled her aside, and they went into the back to talk. I don't know what was said, but when Ashley came back out, she looked drained, and Lauren was gone. I hoped that would be the end of it, but nope. Lauren was just getting started. A couple of days later, Ashley told me Lauren had been going around town talking about me. Apparently, she was telling anyone who'd listen that I'd tricked their dad into giving me part of the bakery, and that I was secretly stealing money. She even told some of the bakery's regular customers that they shouldn't trust me because I was only in it for the profit. One of them, Mrs. Henderson, a sweet older woman who's been coming here for decades, asked me point blank if the rumors were true. I almost lost it. I showed Ashley all the financial records to prove I wasn't hiding anything. Every receipt, every expense, every deposit, it was all there, clear as day. She believed me, of course, but it didn't seem to matter to Lauren. She wasn't interested in facts. This was about her needing to be right, no matter the cost. It got worse when Lauren started talking to other business owners in town. She told them I was poaching customers from other bakeries by undercutting prices and running unfair promotions. The irony? Those promotions were her dad's idea. He'd been the one to suggest offering discounts on bulk orders or hosting events to draw in new customers. I was just continuing what he started. But Lauren didn't care about that. She was determined to paint me as the villain, and she didn't care who she had to drag down in the process. I started noticing fewer customers coming in, and some of our regulars stopped showing up altogether. I couldn't prove it, but I was pretty sure it was because of Lauren's rumors. The worst part? It started affecting Ashley. She was stuck in the middle, trying to mediate between me and her sister. She'd spend hours on the phone with Lauren, trying to explain that I wasn't the bad guy, but it never went anywhere. Lauren would just double down, saying Ashley was choosing her husband over her own family. It was tearing Ashley apart, and it was killing me to see her like that. One night, after another argument with Lauren, Ashley broke down. She told me she felt like she was being torn in two. She loved me, but she didn't want to lose her sister. I hugged her and told her we'd figure it out. But honestly, I didn't know how. Lauren wasn't just upset. She was on a mission, and nothing Ashley said seemed to make a difference. I tried reaching out to Lauren myself, hoping that maybe if we talked one-on-one, I could clear the air. I asked her to meet me for coffee, And to my surprise, she agreed. For a moment, I thought maybe we could finally work things out. The meeting was a disaster, but there was no way I was going to sit there and let Lauren bulldoze me with her nonsense. She spent the entire time throwing accusations like I was some kind of shady grifter who'd sneaked into her family's legacy. She said I didn't deserve the bakery, that her dad had only given me the share because he was old and sick and didn't know what he was doing. At that point, I'd had enough. I leaned forward, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "Lauren, let me stop you right there. Your dad was one of the sharpest, most honest men I've ever met, even when he was sick. He saw me stepping up when this place was struggling, and he trusted me to take care of it. I didn't ask for this, but I'm not going to apologize for earning his respect. If you think yelling louder is going to rewrite history, good luck with that." She opened her mouth to respond, but I wasn't finished. "And about that lawsuit you're threatening? Go ahead. Try it. You'll be throwing away your money because I've kept everything clean and above board. Every penny is accounted for. Every investment is documented. I didn't manipulate anyone. I did the work, and your dad recognized that. The same can't be said for you, considering you've been collecting profits without lifting a finger for years." Her face turned red, and I could see she wasn't expecting me to call her out. She glared at me like she was about to explode. But I stood my ground. "This isn't about what's fair to you, Lauren. This is about what's right for the bakery. So if you want to keep throwing tantrums, go ahead. But don't think for a second that I'm going to roll over just because you're upset." She ended the conversation with, "You're lucky I haven't sued you yet, but don't think I won't." I smirked and shot back, "Try it. I'll see you in court." She stormed out. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the bakery. Lauren didn't just resent me, she hated me. No matter what I did or said, it wasn't going to change her mind. I could have handed over my share of the bakery right then and there, and she still wouldn't have been satisfied. I went home and told Ashley about the meeting. She sighed and said, "I don't know what to do anymore. She's my sister, but this isn't right." I didn't know what to do either. I loved Ashley, and I didn't want to put her in a position where she had to choose between me and her family. But at the same time, I wasn't going to let Lauren destroy everything we'd worked so hard to build. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. Lauren wasn't going to stop at words. She was already planting seeds of doubt in the community, and I had no idea just how far she was willing to go. One day, I was at the bakery, reorganizing some invoices in the back, when Ashley walked in, holding her phone with this look on her face that told me whatever was coming wasn't going to be good. She handed me the phone and said, "It's Lauren. She wants to talk to you." I raised an eyebrow because, let's be honest, Lauren and I didn't exactly have the kind of relationship where we casually chatted. I took the phone and said, "Hey Lauren, what's up?" Her response, "You need to sell me your share of the bakery. Name your price." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," she said. "You don't belong in this business, and we both know it. So just sell me your share and walk away." I was stunned for a second. Then I said, "Lauren, I'm not selling my share. Your dad trusted me to help keep this place going. I'm not going to just abandon it." Her tone shifted immediately. "Fine," she said. "If you're not going to sell to me, I'll sell my share to someone else. And trust me, I've already got a buyer lined up." Now, that caught my attention. "Who?" I asked. "A chain bakery," she said smugly. "They've been eyeing this town for years. They're willing to pay top dollar for my share, and once they're in, they'll take care of the rest. Let's see how long you last when you're up against corporate money." I couldn't believe it. She wasn't just threatening me. She was threatening to sell out her dad's legacy to some faceless corporation just to spite me. I gripped the phone tighter and said, "Lauren, do you even hear yourself? This bakery was your dad's life. He built it from nothing. You'd really sell it to a chain just to get back at me?" She laughed. Actually laughed. "Don't make this about Dad," she said. "This is about you. You shouldn't even be involved in this business. So either sell me your share, or I'll sell mine to someone who actually knows what they're doing." Before I could respond, she hung up. I just stood there. Ashley put a hand on my arm and asked, "What did she say?" I told her everything, and she looked as horrified as I felt. "She wouldn't really sell her share, would she?" Ashley asked. I wanted to say no, that Lauren wouldn't actually go that far. But the truth was, I didn't know anymore. The idea of a chain bakery buying Lauren's share scared the hell out of me. For one thing, they'd have the resources to completely overpower us. They could run aggressive marketing campaigns, slash prices, and basically force us out of business. But worse than that, it would destroy everything Ashley's dad had worked for. This wasn't just a bakery. It was a part of the community. People came here for more than just the bread and pastries. They came because it felt like home. A chain wouldn't care about that. I spent the rest of the day trying to figure out what to do. Legally, Lauren could sell her share to whoever she wanted, but I wasn't going to let that happen without a fight. I started digging through the partnership agreement, hoping there was something in there that could help me. After a couple of hours, I found it. A clause that said any shares sold had to be offered to the remaining partners first. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it gave me a chance to stop Lauren from selling to the chain. When I showed Ashley the clause, she seemed relieved. "So you can buy her share and keep it in the family?" she asked. I nodded, but the truth was, I wasn't sure how we'd pull it off. Buying Lauren's share would be expensive, and we didn't exactly have piles of cash lying around. Still, it was better than letting the bakery fall into the hands of a corporation. I decided to confront Lauren about the clause. I called her and said, "Lauren, I know about the partnership agreement. If you want to sell your share, you have to offer it to me and Ashley first." She laughed again. God, that laugh was starting to make my blood boil. And said, "Good luck coming up with the money. You can barely keep the bakery afloat as it is." I gritted my teeth and said, "We'll figure it out, but you're not selling to a chain." She hung up again, but this time I felt a little more in control. At least I had a plan now, even if it was a long shot. The next couple of weeks were tense. Lauren kept dropping hints that she was moving forward with the sale, and I could tell she was hoping we'd panic. Meanwhile, I started looking into every possible way to raise the money. I talked to banks about loans, checked our savings, and even considered selling some personal assets to make it happen. It was stressful, but I wasn't going to let Lauren win. One evening, Ashley's mom came over for dinner. She'd been staying quiet through most of this drama, but now she looked worried. "Lauren's been talking about the chain bakery again," she said. "She told me they're offering her more than the bakery's worth. I'm scared she's going to do it." I reassured her that we had the clause to fall back on, but I could see the worry in her eyes. This wasn't just about the money, it was about the heart of the family. Losing the bakery to a chain would hurt her deeply, and I wasn't going to let that happen. As the days went on, Lauren's threats started to feel more real. She wasn't backing down, and I knew time was running out. But if she thought I was going to roll over and let her destroy everything, she was in for a surprise. I wasn't just fighting for the bakery, I was fighting for Ashley, her family, and the legacy her dad had trusted me to protect. I've got a plan in motion now, but it's not going to be easy. I'll leave it here for now, but I promise to come back with an update once everything is said and done. Whether it's a win, a loss, or something in between, you'll hear from me again soon. Wish me luck, Reddit. This fight isn't over yet. Update 1.0. Alright, Reddit. I came with an update because things escalated big time. By this point, Lauren had made it crystal clear that she wasn't just out to make my life miserable. She was out to destroy me, and possibly the bakery along with it. The threats to sell her share to a chain bakery weren't just empty words. She was dead serious. I realized I couldn't afford to sit back and hope things would magically work themselves out. If I wanted to stop her, I needed to take action. So I decided to gather every scrap of financial evidence I could find. I pulled invoices, receipts, bank statements, payroll records, everything. I spent hours digging through files, double-checking numbers, and making sure there wasn't a single thing Lauren could twist or use against me. It was tedious work, but it had to be done. Ashley was there the whole time, helping me sort through the chaos. She'd grown up in the bakery but didn't know much about the business side of things. Still, she was determined to help me clear my name. "She's not going to win," Ashley kept saying, like a mantra. I could tell she was just as hurt by Lauren's behavior as I was, but she was channeling that hurt into action, and I was grateful for it. After a few late nights and way too much coffee, I had everything organized. I even hired an accountant to do an independent audit, just to make sure there wasn't anything I'd overlooked. The results came back clean, of course, but they also revealed something I hadn't expected. Lauren hadn't been contributing financially to the bakery for years. She'd been taking her share of the profits without reinvesting a single dime back into the business. That was a game changer. While Ashley and I had been busting our butts to keep the bakery afloat, Lauren had been sitting back, collecting her cut, and doing absolutely nothing to help. It wasn't just frustrating, it was infuriating. All this time, she'd been accusing me of stealing from the bakery, and yet she was the one leeching off it. Armed with this new information, I decided it was time to confront Lauren. But instead of going in guns blazing, I planned a family meeting. I wanted Ashley, her mom, and Lauren to all be there. I figured it was the best way to lay everything out in the open and hopefully put an end to this madness. The meeting was tense from the start. Lauren showed up late, of course, and immediately started making snarky comments about how I was probably going to spin some big story to make myself look good. I ignored her and got straight to the point. I handed out copies of the audit report and walked everyone through it step by step. This is everything, I said. Every dollar that's come in, every expense, every investment Ashley and I have made to keep this place running. It's all here. And as you can see, there's nothing shady going on. Lauren rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, please. You probably doctored those numbers." I stayed calm. "Lauren, this was done by an independent accountant. You can call them yourself if you don't believe me." That shut her up for a moment, but not for long. "Fine," she said. "So you're not stealing. Big deal. That doesn't change the fact that you don't belong here." I took a deep breath. Actually, it does change things. Because while Ashley and I have been reinvesting in the bakery, buying new equipment, paying for marketing, fixing the roof, you've been doing nothing. You haven't put a single cent back into the business. The room went silent. Even Ashley's mom looked surprised. Lauren, on the other hand, turned bright red. "That's not true." She got mad. "I've helped plenty." I raised an eyebrow. "Really? Show me." Because according to the records, the only thing you've been doing is taking your profit share. Lauren looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, but she wasn't about to admit she was wrong. "This is ridiculous," she said, standing up. "You're trying to make me look bad in front of my own family." "No one's trying to make you look bad," Ashley said, finally speaking up. "We just want the truth, Lauren. You've been accusing OP of things he didn't do, and it's not fair." Lauren crossed her arms and glared at Ashley. "So you're on his side now?" "Of course you are. You always take his side." Ashley didn't back down. "I'm on the side of what's right, and what you're doing isn't right." Lauren stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The rest of us just sat there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. Ashley's mom finally broke the silence. "I had no idea. I didn't realize Lauren wasn't contributing." "It's not your fault," I said. "She's been hiding behind her accusations because she knows she's in the wrong. But now we have the proof." Ashley nodded. "She can't keep doing this. If she wants to be part of the bakery, she needs to start acting like it." I agreed, but I knew Lauren wasn't going to change overnight. She'd backed herself into a corner, and people like her don't admit defeat easily. As satisfying as it was to expose her lies, I knew the fight wasn't over. Lauren was too stubborn to let this go, and I had a feeling she'd come back swinging. The only question was how far she'd go, and whether we'd be ready for it. For Lauren, reasonable wasn't even in her vocabulary. About a week after the meeting, Lauren sent Ashley a text. Not me, Ashley. The gist of it was that she'd had enough of the lies and was moving forward with selling her 40% share to the chain bakery. She claimed it was her only option, since I was destroying the family business. Ashley showed me the text, her hands shaking, and said, "She can't actually do this, can she?" "Technically, yes. Legally, no. Thanks to the partnership agreement, any sale of shares had to be offered to the remaining partners first. But Lauren either didn't know that or didn't care. She was determined to bulldoze her way through this. And honestly, that terrified me. I decided it was time to call in some legal help. I hired a business attorney to go over the partnership agreement with a fine-tooth comb and make sure we were on solid ground. The attorney confirmed what I already knew. Lauren couldn't sell her shares to anyone outside the partnership without giving Ashley and me the first chance to buy them. That clause was our lifeline. Still, Lauren wasn't making this easy. She was spreading more rumors around town, this time saying that Ashley and I were trying to force her out of the bakery. It was laughable, but it was also infuriating. The gossip was starting to affect business again, and I could see the stress wearing on Ashley. One evening, we were sitting at home, trying to relax after another long day at the bakery, when Ashley's mom called. "Lauren's meeting with the chain bakery tomorrow," she said. "She told me she's already negotiating the terms." Well, Lauren knew about the partnership clause. I'd made it clear during the family meeting. So why was she still pushing this? Was it just to make our lives miserable? I didn't have an answer, but I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. The next day, I showed up at the bakery early and started making calls. To our lawyer, to make sure everything was ready in case Lauren tried to pull something shady. Then, to a financial advisor, to explore options for buying out her share. It wasn't going to be easy. 40% of the bakery was a lot of money. But I was determined to figure it out. Later that afternoon, Ashley came into the office with a worried look on her face. "She's here," she said. "Lauren. And she's got someone with her." I walked out to the front of the bakery, and sure enough, there was Lauren, standing with a guy in a suit who looked every bit the corporate lackey. They were talking to one of our regular customers, Mrs. Henderson, who looked visibly uncomfortable. As soon as Lauren saw me, she smirked and said, "Oh, look who decided to show up. The golden boy." I ignored the jab and walked over. "Lauren, what are you doing?" She gestured to the guy next to her. This is Eric. He's with the chain. I'm just showing him around. You know, since this is about to be their newest location. My blood boiled, but I kept my voice steady. You can't sell your shares to them, Lauren. You know that. The partnership agreement. Oh, please, she interrupted. That stupid clause isn't going to stop me. If you and Ashley can't afford to buy me out, then I can sell to whoever I want. That's when I pulled out the printed copy of the partnership agreement from my pocket and handed it to Eric. You might want to read this before you get too invested, I said. It's legally binding. Eric hesitated, then took the document and started flipping through it. Lauren's smirk faltered for a second, but she quickly recovered. Nice try, she said. But this isn't over. She stormed out, dragging Eric with her, but not before throwing one last insult over her shoulder. Enjoy your little bakery while it lasts. You'll never make it without me. After she left, Ashley came up to me, looking shaken. What if she's right? She asked. What if we can't afford to buy her out? We'll figure it out. I'm not giving up on this. The next few days were a whirlwind. I met with our financial advisor, who helped us explore loan options. I also reached out to a few friends who might be willing to invest. It was stressful, but I kept reminding myself why we were doing this. It was all about protecting the legacy Ashley's dad had left behind. Then, Lauren made her final move. She sent us a formal letter demanding an inflated price for her shares, way more than they were actually worth. It was her way of trying to back us into a corner, hoping we'd give up and let her sell to the chain. But she underestimated how far I was willing to go. I sent her an official counteroffer based on the valuation we'd gotten from an independent appraiser. It was fair, and it was backed by legal documentation. If she refused, she'd be violating the terms of the partnership agreement, and I was fully prepared to take her to court over it. When Lauren got the counteroffer, she exploded. She called Ashley and screamed at her, saying we were trying to lowball her and ruin her life. Ashley hung up on her, tears in her eyes. I can't do this anymore, she said. She's not my sister anymore, not after this. It hurt to see Ashley so broken, but it also strengthened my resolve. Lauren eventually caved. She had no choice. The partnership agreement was ironclad, and the counteroffer was legally sound. She accepted the deal, though not without sending one final nasty email accusing us of destroying the family. After Lauren sold us her shares, I expected relief, but felt anger. For months, she'd spread lies, dragged Ashley into schemes, and nearly sold her dad's legacy out of spite. Watching her walk away unscathed didn't sit right. I focused on restoring the bakery's reputation with a heartfelt social media post about our dedication to Ashley's dad's dream. The support was overwhelming, bringing in loyal and new customers. Then, I addressed Lauren's unpaid taxes, reporting her negligence, which triggered an audit. I also corrected the false narrative she used to promote her catering business. Word spread, and her venture quickly flopped. In the end, Lauren faced financial and reputational fallout, while our bakery thrived. Ashley and I reinvested, grew the business, and honored her dad's legacy. Karma took care of the rest. Thanks to everyone who's read this far and offered support or advice. It means a lot to know there are people out there rooting for us. I'm going to focus on rebuilding and moving forward now, but if anything wild happens, I'll be sure to come back with an update. For now, though, I think we're finally in a good place.